Have you ever felt frustrated, overwhelmed, or stuck wasting time in admin instead of growing, leveraging, and scaling your business? Then this podcast is for you. Welcome to Delegate to Elevate, the podcast that's all about handing off what you don't need to do so you can focus on what you do best. So here's your host, Bonnie Schutz.
Hello, everybody. I am Bonnie Schutz, your host of Delegate to Elevate, Get Done. I would like to welcome my guest today, Jess Sato. Say hi, Jess.
Hi, everyone.
I'm super excited. As I always say, every single guest I bring on, I'm excited about because they are brought in because of some certain special little spark or something about them to my podcast, because this is the real space that I believe in: real people, real friendships, real connections, and real professional service providers that are just the okay. So this is Jess Sato, who lives in my hometown. She is a business growth strategist and visibility expert who helps high achieving women entrepreneurs turn their expertise into bold market leading ideas. As the founder of Jessica Sato Consulting, she specializes in helping women clarify their message, amplify their impact, and build businesses that drive real change. With deep expertise in leadership, visibility, and impact strategy, Jess believes that creating true lasting impact requires learning to leverage the strengths of others, not doing it all alone. Woo! Yes, you can do it all alone, but you're going to be a frazzled freaking mess, right?
Yeah, and I don't know, can you do it alone? I don't know.
I tried.
Yes, and you got
don't know
burned
what
out,
you
right?
don't know until you get in there. So you jump in
Yeah.
the pool, right? So I just want to tell everybody I've spoken a lot about my connection through a network called the Dames, and Jess comes through the Dames to my acquaintance. But come to find out, she is in the town I grew up in, Colorado Springs, Colorado, and she is besties with a gal that I went to high school with. Boy, it is a fun speaking day, everybody. But what the hell? You all know that I'm a woman of a certain age, and we do these things. But I'm just gonna roll with it. So forgive me, Jess. I do flub up my words now and then, and I call that my Menno brain. And sometimes I have to like pull back the Rolodex in the brain, and try to find the word or get to the right word. Someday I might even share with people that I have a mouth guard in. Ha ha! Nobody knows that.
They do now.
They do now. The whole world knows. I had nerve damage in the roof of my mouth, people. And so it's like I'm like a teenager with an Invisalign and a little retainer case. So there you go. I opted for the guard today, which I don't always do. And tell me if I have a lisp.
You're good. You're good.
My God. Okay, so let's do this thing. So Jess and I had a tiny little combo before we started. And then we thought, you know what? Let's just hit record because we are already talking about what we should be talking about on the show. So, Jess, tell us a little bit more about what you do, where you come from, and your experience in general with delegation. We can start there.
Yeah. So I am really passionate about helping female entrepreneurs get crystal clear on their big idea. And I would go so far as to say it's not even just about being clear. I believe it's a fundamental need that most business owners have. And many times I will hear and see people walking around with sort of a muddled message. It's like they know what they want to say, but it's not coming out clearly, not because of a mouth guard.
Love it.
It's like they have too much expertise, or they're, mired down in self-doubt. There's a lot of reasons why, but my work is really about helping women be crystal clear on their big idea, that point of view that they bring to the conversation. And I think that's important work because women's voices are desperately needed right now. I really believe that women will change the world, and we're at a time where it is really ripe with opportunity to do that. So, as far as delegation goes, I have, had my own business now for over a decade. And to your point, it is incredibly difficult to do it alone. And one of the things that I have found over the years is just how important it is to bring people into the team and allow me to focus on the things that are really important to me and that only I can do. Right. So bookkeeping, content creation, managing sort of the things behind the scenes. Those are things like, they're not really in my zone of genius. Can I do it? Yeah, I can.
Right.
It's not pretty, but I can do it.
I feel like it on a non-busy day. Let me do some social today. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, delegation is an essential part of growing a healthy productive business. And even for people who are not running businesses, but who are in
Oh, I like
leadership
that.
capacities, right? I mean,
Right.
I just believe that when we're all operating in our respective zones of genius and we allow other people to be in that process with us, something magical happens. So to me,
Yeah.
it's about how do we all tap into that together and grow together into the best version of whatever it is we're trying to create.
Oh, I love the magical, just the magic happens. I'm going to
Mhm.
quote you on that one.
Please do.
Don't think I won't, because having been a 30-year executive assistant, you're often overlooked, but you're the real magic behind the scenes
Yes,
that lifts, like you said, the leader up. And in my case, it was the leader. It wasn't a business owner, although I think he may have owned the business, but whatever. He ran a corporate-ish
Mhm.
place instead, but it works for anybody in a leadership position. If he didn't
Yeah,
have me when he went and spoke on a stage, or when he traveled
yeah,
for client meetings, he would have fell apart.
that's right. That's absolutely right. Yeah, I think we tend to minimize, and I don't know. I don't feel like the assistant in this equation minimizes, or I hope they don't. But I think it's very easy to minimize. But to me, the thing that has really worked for me is really making sure that everybody understands what's the mission, how do we all fit into the conversation together, and one of the things you and I talked about beforehand is when we're selecting our team, yeah, it's important to get the right skills for
Right.
sure,
Right.
right? We have a
Check.
job that has to get done, need to
Yep.
do that. But to me, the more important part of that conversation is what is the values alignment
Mm.
from a leader to individual partner as
Yes.
perspective. So, when I was hiring my assistant, who I've had for over 2 years now,
Mhm.
yeah, I said, okay, I need her to be able to do these things. But more importantly, I want someone who is passionate about women, who is passionate about gender equity, who is passionate about helping women, run and build successful businesses, who believes that women play a unique role. Like those were things that were deeply
Yes.
important to me. And
Mhm.
funny enough, I'll tell you, this is such a funny
Yeah.
story. Agency that was helping me do this,
Mhm.
there were a lot of people that they were like, oh yeah, we think these people might be a good fit. And she actually happened to see that requisition and
Right?
she said, hey, can I apply for that? It
Oh.
wasn't her primary role. And she's
Oh.
like, I really want to apply for that. I want to help this woman because those are my values. And it ended up being a total match made in heaven. So
Aw.
I just think there's something deeply powerful that when we are bringing people into our space as a part of the team, more important than anything else is the values alignment.
I agree 100%, and admit to when I started the business, not thinking that
Mm,
high at the time, and just thinking about, I need anybody and everybody to help me, and come on. I don't care who you are. But as
hmm.
I've grown to almost a decade myself, so it sounds like we're about in the same spot,
Yeah.
I have realized that the ones that have stayed and the ones that I have chosen to stay or not let go are the ones that are aligned really
That's
truly
right.
with me, my personality, my vision, and who we serve. And it's funny, I can also apply that to this podcast. I have been looking and seeking out guests who I believe get me, want to be around me and chat with me. It
Yeah.
feels like I'm saying me a lot, but I'm trying to get into that own it phase, own
Yeah.
yourself, invest in yourself thing. And it's
Yeah.
it's hard, having been delegated to so much in the past,
Yeah.
like, to think of others in a way and put myself on a pedestal that I never wanted to be on, really, in honesty. But I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm getting a little cocky. No,
But
I'm kidding.
if I could just say something about that, I think that's such a
Yeah,
good
please.
point. Whether you're in a role like maybe what you were in the past as an assistant or someone
Yeah.
who's behind the scenes, who's now moved into the leader, the front of the front facing part of the organization,
Mm,
that transition is actually really difficult. And I find that people who are making a move like that, or I'll just say in general, I find that
yeah.
a lot of the women I work with, we sometimes struggle to be at the forefront, to have that deep
Mhm.
sense of ownership into who we are, what we bring to the table. And I think that's the work for a lot of us, is how do we sort of shed some of that social conditioning that tells us be
Mm.
small, keep quiet, don't
Be
don't
just an assistant.
yeah, or don't take the limelight. As a business owner, like actually you do need to be in the limelight. Like you do need to be the one who is shaping the tone, the messaging, the ideas,
Yes.
etc. behind the organization. And if we're not doing that, if we're unwilling to own it and say me from time to time,
Yeah. Thank you.
we can't do it. So I just want to say kudos,
Me, me,
because
me.
it is actually really hard to shift your role in
I'll
the
say it's the
way other
evolution of
people.
Bonnie, and then like it's really in line with what you're saying. I'm having an evolution. I'm
Yeah.
turning into a different person, and to not to top you, but I do support women too. I really want to get women
Yeah.
out there, but to not only the gender bias that's out there, but there's the age bias. And I
Mm-hmm.
work a lot with women 40, 50, 60 plus, and to grab that ism that's not talked about very much, and that which is ageism. Then there's two sides to that coin. You either gain a bunch of confidence as you age,
Yeah.
or you kind of turn inward and you
Mm-hmm.
become more introverted. And having worked from home now for so long, I used to be super, super extroverted when I ran around the office all the time,
Yeah.
talking to everybody, water cooler girl. But now I've kind of considered myself an introverted extrovert, which is
Yeah.
crazy. Have you heard that term?
Yeah. The word,
Yeah.
what is that term? I think there's like an official, is that the ambivert?
Oh,
Ambivert
yes,
is the
I
term.
have heard that. We
Sort
probably
of a
heard that at
balance
our
of
mutual
both.
organization. And I love that they made a word for that. I got to remember that. I'm an ambivert, but I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with it. That fits
Yeah.
me now in this stage of life and my business. And I couldn't be another example. I couldn't be doing this podcast, which is something that I'm having so much fun with, if I didn't have a team behind me keeping the
Yeah.
wheels and the engine going on my business. I
Yeah.
would think that you do as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to jump back a minute too when you mentioned like the vision and having that clarity. Do you think it's valuable to even share that with a contractor that's just doing your books?
100%.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, to me, if you have people who are on your team and they don't really get where you're going, I don't know how they can fully support you. I mean,
Right.
yeah, can they do the mechanics of the work? Probably, but it's made all the better when they know exactly why they're doing it, how their role uniquely contributes to this larger vision. It just
Right.
adds a layer of commitment and energy that wouldn't be there otherwise. So whether it's a contractor, an actual, you know, hired
Employee.
employee, like everyone should be on the same page. It reminds me a
Yeah.
little bit, you can tell I have kids by this example, they're older now, but in that movie Finding Nemo,
I love
there's
that.
a scene in there where all the fish are trapped in this net and they're all swimming in a bunch of different directions. And I think a lot of times about how if you don't have a clear vision, people are swimming in lots of different directions, trying to do all of their things. And there's
Mm-hmm.
this moment when it becomes clear, like they are going to get taken out of the sea and, who knows what was going to happen to them.
They're going to be poor
And
Dory going out there wherever she's
exactly.
going.
And I think it's Nemo who says, down. And like they all start chanting, swim
Oh,
down. And what
yeah.
happens? They swim down and they end up breaking through the net and freeing themselves.
That's the power of more than one, the power of the
Yes,
team.
more
Yeah.
than one, a clear vision, bringing people
Right.
into the conversation together, right? That clarity of message and vision and everybody being on board together,
Yes.
magic.
Even
You're
the
just going to hear me say
contracted
magic all the time. I'm like,
bookkeeper,
it
man.
feels magical. Yeah.
Okay. I always say you're leaving me with some golden nuggets as takeaways. And I don't know where the hell I came up with golden nuggets, but that's just what I'm saying every time I say it. But I think they are. They're like just these golden nuggets that the podcast guests that I have had are giving me to share with the world. And I just love that. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much
Yeah.
for that. Where did you come from before 10 years ago, before you started your thing? Where were you working and what were you doing?
Yeah. I was working at a big aerospace company here in the US.
Ooh, okay.
And so I kind of grew up in male dominated, or as my friend
Yeah.
Sandy says, male saturated spaces. And
Yeah.
the first half of my career was really focused on strategic decision making workshops. So, really helping
Mm,
the war fighters and the defense community decide what do we need to do in the future and what kind of capabilities do we need to have. And so, a lot of that conversation was really
mm,
about, understanding the priorities. Again, the vision of what they were trying to accomplish and how do we bring ourselves to build consensus.
yeah.
Really loved that work. It was super fun. And then I ended up moving the second half of my corporate career to the sort of leadership development side of the
Okay.
business. And honestly, that's where I feel like my passion really
You got your
opened up
spark, I
for
was
me.
gonna say.
Yeah, I was working with leaders, doing executive coaching, mentoring, facilitating
Neat.
big transitions within the company for individual leaders, and really thinking about what does it require for us to have good leadership and how do we leverage that for the team, for the growth of the business? I'm really talking about strategy and the like. And then, ended up for a whole variety of reasons, none of which were actually about the work. Stepping away from my corporate career was really more personal, and then using that as sort of a launching pad to figure out what is it that I want to do and how do I do that on my terms. I mean, one of the reasons I did leave is my husband was traveling all the time. We had 2 young kids with no, sort of no safety net. My family didn't live there. His family didn't live there. And I was working insane hours, and I just thought, this cannot be it. This is not going to work for us. And ended up walking away, and funny enough, had a little side hustle where I was making cookies and cupcakes for a while,
Nice.
which was a really fun job. But yeah, no, my passion has really always been about how do we help leaders grow into the best version of themselves, and how do, now that has taken on the form of working with entrepreneurs, how do we help entrepreneurs really make significant strides to bringing their their vision to life? And for me, a lot of the people I'm working with are women who are change makers, who are passionate about creating industry change or social impact. And that work, just like anything, has been an evolution, but all along the way, it has always come back to two things. How do we help leaders be and find themselves in this process? And how do we create real change in the world, whether that's in our community and the work itself, or, on a grander scale in the world? And that to me has always come down to clarity of mission, clarity of vision, and really being clear about your unique perspective and your point of view.
I love that. I love that because when somebody hires you, I mentioned to you before we hit record today that I delegated my mind to someone we both know and love to rejig it. That'll give you a hint on my old thoughts. So really, I always think broadly about the word delegation, and there are other ways to see it, or, abstractly think of it. And I did with her, and I stepped into that place of abundance and a better money mindset. And that, again, could not have been achieved, or I could not be doing this podcast right now if my team was not running the show back while I'm doing this. So I just absolutely love what you do, and congratulations on your evolution, because I think been amazing. I've watched you for the last couple of years that we've known each other, and we need to get together soon. Just saying.
Yeah.
I always love coming back down to my hometown. During these 10 years of your business, I'm just going to get back into it because I feel like talking to you longer. During these last 10 years of your business, what was the first thing you handed off to somebody else? I always love to ask that because I'm curious.
Okay, I'm going to answer this 2 ways. The first thing I ever handed off was my bookkeeping.
Everybody says the same thing.
Everybody, I did it for a long time.
On the show, man.
I did it for a long time, and yeah, I tried to do it for a long time, and I just realized this doesn't make sense for me to keep doing this. And so that was definitely my first real delegation. That's on the positive side. And, I've since had, assistants and other things who I brought into the team. As you were talking about sort of delegating your mindset and your thinking, one of the things that came to me is, there have been times, and this is maybe really nebulous, but there have definitely been times, and I think if we're talking about vision and ideas and clarity, even our voice sometimes, I think there have definitely been times in the course of my entrepreneurial evolution where I have delegated my voice. And, one of the things as I was thinking about this particular podcast, and the word delegate, means to give your voice to someone else, or give something to someone else. And I think this is a negative, actually, when it comes to delegation. We can outsource our voice to other people, and I don't believe that serves us over the long term. Part of our role and responsibility as an entrepreneur, and as the face potentially of our organization, is to be crystal clear on the vision, crystal clear on our perspective, and to use our voice to advance the conversation. And if we are delegating our voice to others, either because we're scared, we worry about what other people will think, we feel inadequate, there are many reasons we might do this.
Right.
That to me is a negative example of what it looks like to delegate your voice. Now, on the flip side of that, I think when you're crystal clear and you are deeply confident in your voice and your message, then it becomes easier to delegate some aspects of your voice, right? So, if you're minimizing and sort of outsourcing your voice and your message to someone else, they may not fully get it.
Right.
But where it's really powerful then is, and I'll just use my assistant as an example, I'm very clear on my message. I'm very
Sure.
clear on what I want to say.
Good.
I'm very
I'm
clear
glad.
on all of these pieces
Yes.
that are necessary. And so it becomes easy for her, because she's aligned, like we talked about before, for her to say, this is what I hear you saying. This is what I'm creating. Does this match? And so I think there's some nuance here about when is it right to delegate and what do we
And
delegate?
what?
In fact, what is ours? I think that's the question. What is ours to delegate? I don't believe it is ours to delegate our thought leadership and our voice, sort of abdicating our responsibility around that. But it
Right.
is ours to delegate the execution in some cases of
Yes.
what that might look like. I don't know if that was
Yeah.
too vague, but
No,
I think there's
not
something
at all.
there.
Yeah, I think there is for sure. Yeah, I never thought about delegating my voice, and I always, when I'm working like with my social media manager, right? Like
Hmm.
I thought after 3 years, whatever we were in, that she would really have my voice, but I still find myself, I don't know if it's a control freak in me or what, but I still find myself tweaking things to make them sound more like what would WWBD, what would Bonnie do? What
Hmm.
would Bonnie, how would Bonnie say that? So I'm like, I'm really going to think about this, and
Yeah.
maybe I need to make her like an audio clip or something. Even after 3 years, God bless her, she's done what she was supposed to do in her scope of work.
Hmm.
But maybe I could amp that up a bit and be a better at communicating by literally letting her hear my voice and
Yeah.
get a better vibe for me. I'll tell her she better listen to my podcast. Then
That's
she'll
right.
really know who I am. Or follow Delegate to Elevate on LinkedIn and the company
Yeah.
page. That
Yeah.
is pretty much right now our only social that we're running,
Hmm.
but we are moving to video on YouTube. So people will get to know me even better now, because now you'll see my shining face. But yeah, oh boy, I love, like, I'm kind of getting introspective here and thinking more about my voice and how it's taken me a while to find. Uh,
Yeah.
Truly. And it's a new voice. It's not the voice I had
That's
10
right.
years ago at all, which comes with age and being discriminated as a woman against, because of being held back is probably a better word to say. I'm fully stepped into that now. And, being an entrepreneur after being in corporate for so many years
Hmm.
has changed me for the
Yeah.
better, I think. I mean, the struggle is real, I'm not going to lie. But having people that you can, it's not always delegate, just talk to. If you have people on your team or in your network, like you and I, that we can talk to, is another way of delegating. It's like, I call it like cross delegation. And you're kind of,
Hmm.
giving each other ideas, and you're working together and collaborating on things. And that's another way to open your mind, like you just did with me.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So, oh my goodness, yeah, lots of golden nuggets, people. Note them down. Jess, maybe if I was to have you give us, I'll give you on the spot here, a couple of takeaways from what we've talked about today. What would be the top two that you would tell people to either write down, remember, take it to the bank?
That's really good. I guess one thing I would say sort of harkens back to the beginning of our conversation, and that is
Uh-huh.
making sure that when you're bringing people onto your team or outsourcing or delegating anything, let's make sure that we're all aligned on the vision, on the values, so that we're all sort of swimming down together.
Yes.
And I think the second one is going to really focus on what we talked about at the second bit of the conversation, which is
Mhm.
making sure that you own your voice and your own ideas. And once you do that, that's when you delegate and bring other people
Mhm.
in to help you with the sort of the execution or the application of that.
To give you the time and
Yeah.
freedom that you need to share that voice with everybody else, like you're doing
Yeah.
right now.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. Oh my gosh, I'm
Yeah.
so glad you accepted my invite to be a guest on
Yeah.
the show. I don't know, I'm like showing my age because I always want to say the really big show. I don't know what that goes back to, but that shows you my age, and I'm being ageist against myself. Sorry, ladies. Really big show. I don't even know if I was 5 or 3 or something whenever that guy came out. I couldn't even tell you who it was. Anywho, again, I just want to thank you so much for being here today, Jess. And if anybody listening, if this is resonating with you, I use that word a lot, or something is just hitting you, dead center, and you want to talk more about it, I can bring her back. Just tell me in the comments, send me a DM, anything. We'll bring her back and we'll dive a little deeper into something. I want to get to that point with the guests on the show, because we have brought on some amazing people that I think I could go a whole lot deeper with, but not trying to have 2-hour podcasts. That's all.
Yeah.
I am a talker. You know, that's why people asked me to do a podcast, because you like to talk, Bonnie, obviously. But yeah, we'll put all her information on how you can get in touch with her if you want to work with her. I highly recommend her. But yeah, please listen, subscribe, share with your friends and your colleagues, and leave us a review. I appreciate those more than you know. Have a great day, everybody. Bye, Jess.
Bye.
Thank you.
So that's it for today's episode of Delegate to Elevate. Head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen and subscribe to the show. One lucky listener every single week that posts a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes will win a chance in the grand prize drawing to win a $15,000 private VIP day with Bonnie herself. Be sure to head on over to delegatetoelevatepodcast.com. That's with the number 2. And pick up a free copy of Bonnie's gift. And join us on the next episode.